evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephania Cox. Here are today's top stories. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer today praising the Senate's progress on the infrastructure bill. One bipartisan amendment was adopted and hundreds of others proposed. An interesting detail in the bill, a requirement for new cars to be built with alcohol monitors. According to the CDC, new CCP virus infections caused by the Delta variant increased by more than 90 percentage points over the last couple of months. 17 suspected child predators arrested during a 6-day sting operation in Florida. The suspects thought they were meeting with 13-year-old children, but instead they met with undercover officers. Among those arrested, 3 Disney employees. An education reform group sues one of Florida's biggest school districts. It's part of an effort to keep sexually explicit books away from children. And we hear from a Senate committee on Beijing's threat to U.S. national security. Speakers outlined the harm caused by the Chinese regime's influence on Hollywood and its penetration of 5G networks worldwide. Seventeen suspected child predators have been busted in an undercover sting operation in Florida. They were expecting to meet with children, but they met with arrest instead. Among them were 3 Disney employees. NTD's Grace Coulter has the story.
These 17 individuals thought they were meeting with 13 or 14-year-old children to engage in sexual activities. Instead, they met with law enforcement and were arrested on the spot.
His last name is Justice. That's what we're going to get. Justice for justice.
Grady Judd, the sheriff of Polk County, Florida, described details of the 6-day-long sting, dubbed Operation Child Protector, at a press conference Tuesday. Fox 13 was on the scene. Undercover law enforcement officers posed as children on social media platforms, mobile apps, and online dating sites to investigate potential child predators. Among those who took the bait, 3 Disney employees.
Jonathan works for Disney. He's a custodian. He works at Hollywood Studios. And he dates Savannah Lawrence. Guess what? She's a custodian. She works for Disney Hollywood Studios. Well, if that's not enough Disney employees, how about another one?
This one, 26-year-old Kenneth Aquinas, is a lifeguard at Disney Animal Kingdom Lodge. According to the sheriff, he was still wearing his Disney work uniform when he went to meet with the child, who was actually an undercover officer. Over 1 year ago, in June 2020, Polk County detectives also arrested 2 Walt Disney World employees for possession of child pornography. NTD reached out to Walt Disney World Florida about their employee vetting process and asked whether it will be reviewed or updated in light of the new arrests, but they didn't get back to us before airtime. Sheriff Judd said many of the 17 arrested lived at home with their parents. One, he said, was even HIV positive. In total, the suspects face 49 felonies and 2 misdemeanors. Over the last few years, Polk County law enforcement officers have helped take numerous child predators off the street. Sheriff Judd said they continue to be dedicated to keeping children safe, but added parents also need to do their due diligence.
Be all up in your child's business. Know who their friends are, know who and where they're communicating. It's the only way to keep these folks away because they know how to talk kid. They have charisma, they have personality, and it's frightening how convincing they can be.
He also suggested parents install apps that allow them to monitor their children's online activity. Grace Coulter, NTD News.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio's announcement of a vaccine mandate is already facing backlash from another Democrat. The Boston mayor compares it with slavery.
Acting Boston Mayor Kim Janey is suggesting that she does not favor a vaccine passport like New York City. Here's what she said when a WCVB reporter asked her on Tuesday about New York's new requirement.
There's a long history in this country of people needing to show their papers, whether we're talking about this from the standpoint of, as a way to, after during slavery, post-slavery.
The Democrat mayor plans to focus on ensuring vaccine access instead, and she still wants more people to get vaccinated. But Janey says when it comes to what businesses may choose to do, we know that those types of things are difficult to enforce when it comes to the vaccine. But several Boston city councilors are criticizing Janey for her comparison. They want the mayor to build trust in the vaccine, and one of them is supporting the idea of vaccine passports. Starting September 13th, New York City residents will need to show proof of vaccination to enter restaurants, gyms, and entertainment venues. The city also wants more children to get vaccinated. New York City's public announcement system sent out a notice to residents on Wednesday, saying students ages 12 to 17 should get their first vaccine dose by August 9th to be fully vaccinated before school starts. But are those vaccine mandates really going to compel unvaccinated people to get the shots? A survey by Axios Ipsos finds that only 1 in 3 unvaccinated Americans would get the shots if their employer mandated it.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis today hit back against President Biden in a strongly worded speech. This after Biden criticized DeSantis Tuesday for blocking mask mandates and vaccine passports amid rising COVID cases, saying he should get out of the way. DeSantis said Biden is singling out Florida for rising virus cases and hospitalizations, all the while he lets hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants cross the U.S.-Mexico border.
But let me tell you this, if you're coming after the rights of parents in Florida, I'm standing in your way. I'm not going to let you get away with it. If you're trying to deny kids a proper in-person education, I'm going to stand in your way, and I'm going to stand up for the kids in Florida. If you're trying to restrict people, impose mandates, if you're trying to ruin their jobs and their livelihoods and their small business, if you are trying to lock people down, I am standing in your way, and I'm standing for the people of Florida. So why don't you do your job? Why don't you get this border secure? And until you do that, I don't want to hear a blip about COVID from you.
DeSantis claimed Biden said he would shut down the virus, but is allowing hundreds of thousands of migrants to enter the U.S. and be transported around the country. DeSantis said this is facilitating the spread of the virus and new variants. He said while the president's solution to the virus is more government restrictions, Florida thinks decisions like masks and vaccines should be up to each individual. DeSantis said the question is we can either have a free society or we can have a biomedical security state. And on Capitol Hill, senators are working through hundreds of proposed amendments to the infrastructure bill. They already adopted one amendment to extend Interstate 14 across 5 southern states. But a separate proposal to finish border wall construction was shot down today by Senate Democrats. NTD's Melina Wisecup has more updates from Washington, D.C.
Debate continues on the $1.2 trillion hard infrastructure package. Hundreds of amendments have been proposed. Around 250 amendments have been proposed so far, only a handful of which have been taken up for a vote. But Senate Leader Chuck Schumer says he thinks they're making real progress on the debate of this bill.
7 amendments have received roll call votes. One amendment, offered by the uncommon pairing of Senators Warnock and Cruz, was adopted yesterday by voice vote. Miracles happen even here in the Senate, Mr. President.
Now, that bipartisan amendment that Schumer mentioned was actually introduced by Senator Ted Cruz and Senator Warnock, and it would extend Interstate 14 out to the west, designating 5 southern states from Texas to Georgia as the future corridor of Interstate 14.
The amendment does not have any cost associated with it.
And there's also some interesting details in this infrastructure bill. For example, new cars would be required to have an alcohol monitoring device built inside them, which would detect the level of blood alcohol concentration in the driver. And if that blood alcohol concentration is detected to be too high, the vehicle would not work properly. So that's one thing included in this infrastructure bill. Another thing is a pilot program for a mileage tax, meaning Americans would have to pay a tax depending on their mileage mileage, and that money collected from that would be used to pay for future infrastructure projects. Now, this is only in the research phase, so no Americans will have to pay that mileage tax yet. It's just to give the government a way to do research to see whether or not this mileage tax program will be effective. Now, Senate Leader Chuck Schumer is expected to end debate on this hard infrastructure package by Thursday evening. But Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is warning him that if he ends the debate too early, that he'll lead Republicans in blocking the final passage of this hard infrastructure bill. So we'll have to see how this unfolds for the rest of the week. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
The McCloskey couple in St. Louis, Missouri don't have to pay their fines anymore. The governor is pardoning them for wielding guns at Black Lives Matter protesters last summer. Missouri Governor Mike Parson announced Tuesday that he granted clemency to 12 people last Friday, among them Mark and Patricia McCloskey. The governor has previously said last year that felony charges against the couple were outrageous. The McCloskeys pleaded not guilty to felony charges, but pleaded guilty to misdemeanor charges in June. They had to pay $750 and $2,000 fines, respectively, and they also surrendered the guns they used in the incident. The couple said they pulled out the guns because they wanted to defend their home when activists marched through their private gated community. You ever wonder what kind of books your children are reading at school? Well, a parents' organization in Florida has had to sue a school district to find out. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more on why it had to come to this and the sexually explicit books they're trying to locate.
Parents across the country are protesting the material some children are exposed to in public schools. In Florida, an education reform group is suing Broward County Public Schools, or BCPS. Florida Citizens Alliance has asked whether they carry certain sexually explicit books, but the district is blocking their public information request.
This is one of them. It's perfectly normal.
Keith Flogg is the managing director of Florida Citizens Alliance. He says BCPS confirmed they carried this book. It's perfectly normal about 2 years ago.
Shows a couple having sex for 10-year-olds. It shows pages upon pages of transgenderism. Shockingly, why
it is shocking.
Why does that need to be in our school?
We looked through the book and it contains a lot of nudity and details sexual intercourse, among other things. The cover says it's for ages 10 and up. We don't know if BCPS still carries it, and they told us they won't comment on the lawsuit. Flogg says his organization sent to multiple school districts a list of books they considered inappropriate, explicitly sexual, or pornographic. He says some districts confirmed they had some of them. BCPS apparently had 82% of them, but they're not honoring the Alliance's latest requests, which include an updated book list.
So now you're suing. What do you expect to get out of this?
Well, in the short term, we expect to get the material. It's a public records request, but it also sets the tone for the other 67 counties. They know we're serious. They know Pacific Justice Institute has an excellent track record in protecting parents' rights. And so it puts all of them on kind of short notice. And what we plan to do with the data then is update our pornography report that's on our website. And then we plan to use that to go to the legislature starting in September to try to get a harmful for minors bill that puts some real teeth into our obscenity laws here in Florida so that we can stop this harmful indoctrination of our kids.
Pacific Justice Institute, a law firm specializing in parental rights, is representing them. Flogg says parents can demand that certain books be locked away from students without parental permission. He also says parents have the ability to transfer their children to other schools by filing complaints. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
President Biden announced today the U.S. will give Lebanon an additional $100 million in humanitarian aid. And he's calling on Lebanon's leaders to reform the economy and combat corruption, saying that no outside help will ever be enough if the Lebanese leaders don't reform the country themselves.
If the leaders of Lebanon make that choice, the United States will be here every step of the way to support your efforts to deliver a stronger future for the people of Lebanon. There's no time to waste. You all know it.
Today marks the first anniversary of the explosion in Lebanon's capital, Beirut. Thousands there gathered for a moment of silence. The explosion killed over 200 people and injured thousands. And it was one of the biggest non-nuclear explosions in history. A huge quantity of ammonium nitrate stored unsafely at the port caused the tragedy, but no authority has been held accountable, and the investigation is stalling. The Pentagon has identified the police officer that was fatally stabbed on Tuesday, and they are flying flags at half-staff to honor the officer. The slain officer is George Gonzalez, a New York native and an Army veteran. He served in Iraq and joined the police force 3 years ago. He died after a man attacked him on a bus platform outside the Pentagon Tuesday morning. The FBI is leading the investigation into his case. The suspect was identified as Austin William Lons, a 27-year-old Georgia man. He killed himself with the officer's gun. Senator Marco Rubio has reintroduced his bill to combat the Chinese Communist Party's political influence operations in the U.S. This while the Senate Intel Committee discusses Beijing's grip on Hollywood and why the communist regime is collecting information on millions of foreign citizens. Here's NTD's Kevin Hogan with more.
Senator Marco Rubio said the long arm of the Chinese regime is not a futuristic threat, but one that is already here. He said China is stealing between $300 to $600 billion per year of American tech and intellectual property, and said that China has significant control over what Americans are allowed to know about the regime due to the CCP's influence over Hollywood.
Hollywood is so desperate, for example, to have their movies shown in China that Hollywood won't make a movie that the China communist censors don't approve.
On Wednesday, Rubio reintroduced his bill combating the Chinese Communist Party's political influence in the U.S. It would require the Secretary of State and the Director of National Intelligence to create a report on the regime's malign actions. Those include manipulation of the press, economic coercion, and other influence ops. His bipartisan bill would also require a strategy be made to protect U.S. citizens who are Chinese, Uyghur, or Tibetan from the regime's threats. What's more, former Deputy National Security Advisor Matthew Pottinger offered insight on the regime's information operations. He says compiling dossiers or collections of documents on people is typical of Leninist regimes, but he says Beijing's penetration of 5G networks around the world has taken this to a new level.
The party now compiles dossiers on millions of foreign citizens around the world, using the material that it gathers to influence and target and intimidate, reward, blackmail, flatter, and humiliate, and ultimately divide and conquer.
Another panelist, Bill Evanina, who is a former counterintel expert, gave a written testimony. He wrote that Beijing has stolen enough sensitive data to make a dossier on every single American adult, and on many American children, too, who are susceptible under the communist regime's rules of political warfare. Kevin Hogan, NTD News.
The Biden administration is approving the first arms sale to Taiwan since President Biden took office. Congress will review the deal, and Taiwan will negotiate with a military contractor before the sale is finalized. The proposed deal is worth $750 million and will include 40 new M109 self-propelled howitzers. It will also include close to 1,700 kits to add GPS guidance to projectiles. The U.S. Army uses similar equipment. Communist China claims Taiwan as its territory and is threatening to annex it by force. Meanwhile, U.S. law requires the sale of arms to Taiwan so it can defend itself. Since 2010, the U.S. has sold Taiwan $23 billion worth of military arms. In 2020 alone, then-President Trump approved over $5 billion in arms sales. And in comparison, Trump's first arms sale to Taiwan was worth over $1.4 billion, almost double that of Biden's. And coming up, strict gun control in New York City, but guns still on the streets. Federal law enforcement is working against interstate trafficking into the Big Apple. And almost $3 billion of emergency rental assistance for New Yorkers is sitting in the bank. Lawmakers are asking Governor Cuomo what's the holdup. They held a rally today asking the governor to release the money. More in just a moment here on NTD News. Firearms are tightly regulated in New York City, but gun crime is still on the rise. Law enforcement is working to prevent illegal guns from reaching the city in the first place. NTD's Arian Pazdar has the story.
If you want to have a gun here in New York City, you need to have some kind of permit or license, depending on the type of gun you want. Now, of course, it's much easier to get guns in other places around the US. So what happens is that in some cases, guns get smuggled into New York. One place they come from is Atlanta, on a route that law enforcement call a pipeline. On Wednesday, federal law enforcement arrested 3 more people involved in the pipeline, bringing the total to 9. They are charged with smuggling guns across state lines. A U.S. attorney explained the smuggling process.
Wilson's role in the scheme was to act as a so-called straw purchaser, someone who pretended that he was buying guns for himself when he was, in fact, illegally buying them for the New York defendants. In turn, the New York defendants would resell these guns to others.
He then transferred the guns to others who brought them to New York by car or bus. Once in New York, the guns were not only used for violent crimes.
Some of these guns later appeared in music videos filmed by members of the Brooklyn-based Blicky gang. The videos include 4 of the defendants charged here today and show Blicky gang members brandishing loaded firearms and displaying stacks of cash.
The 3 suspects arrested on Wednesday went before a judge the same day. The 3 others, also involved in the trafficking, still remain at large. Arian Pastar, NTD News, New York.
The Mexican government is suing American gun manufacturers and distributors. Mexico argues that the gun makers' negligent and illegal commercial practices have unleashed tremendous bloodshed in their country. Mexico filed the unusual lawsuit in a federal court in Boston. It targets some of the biggest names in guns, including Smith & Wesson and Beirut firearms. Another defendant is Boston area wholesaler Interstate Arms. They sell guns from all but one of the named manufacturers to dealers around the U.S. Mexico estimates that 70% of the weapons trafficked into the country come from the U.S., and that in 2019 alone, at least 17,000 homicides were linked to trafficked weapons. The damages caused is about 1.7% to 2% of Mexico's GDP. The government will seek $10 billion in compensation. And New York state lawmakers and tenant advocates are calling on the governor to release almost $3 billion in emergency rental assistance. The federal government has already issued the funds, but very few New Yorkers have received it. NTD's Jason Perry brings us more from a rally in New York City.
New Yorkers voiced their frustration towards Governor Andrew Cuomo and the way he has handled the rent relief fund. The federal government provided the funds to New York months ago.
There are tens and hundreds of thousands of tenants who are waiting for rent relief. The money is already here.
Well, through a lot of advocacy at the state level and at the federal level, money and relief came to New York State for renters, and Cuomo's administration's job was solely to distribute it and make sure it actually got into renters' hands. Instead, it's been kept at the state level for the past 4 months.
New York State Senator Rivera said less than 0.5% of the money has been distributed.
And unfortunately, the program has not been functioning. Only $1 million out of almost $3 billion is sitting in the bank has moved, and the reason for that is because the people in this governor's office are more worried about protecting their boss's political future than they are about working programs like this.
Assemblywoman Emily Gallagher explained the holdup.
And many of the state agencies are understaffed and underfunded, and we, instead of beefing up those organizations that are really focused on our state, we've hired someone out of state that really might have other motivations.
New Yorker Gloria Bell Castillo had to make a decision to either pay rent or pay for her daughter's college tuition, and she chose to pay her daughter's tuition.
Please release the money so I don't go out to the street, and maybe from there on I can continue paying my rent, but you need to help us, please.
And some New Yorkers who are having trouble paying rent due to the pandemic may not know about the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Tenant advocates like Jessica Yachty try to keep them informed.
I try to spread awareness to my own peers who are like 18, 19, 20 years old youth, and trying to educate them about what is the housing world, because this is all happening and they don't know about it.
Many people at the rally called for Governor Cuomo to resign, saying if he doesn't, they'll try to impeach him.
Cuomo's got to go. Cuomo's got to go.
According to Assemblywoman Gallagher, if the impeachment papers are filed, Cuomo's role would be taken over by another person, and Cuomo would have to wait until he is acquitted to return to his position. We reached out to the governor's office for comment, but didn't hear back before airtime. Jason Perry, NTD News.
In a huge city like New York, people sometimes keep their heads low and try to stick to themselves. But that doesn't mean New Yorkers don't help each other in dangerous situations. A bystander took this clip on Wednesday afternoon. You can see a man and his wheelchair lying on the tracks while another man jumps down in an effort to help. Apparently, the wheelchair-bound man was able to put a little force on his feet, but with much difficulty. The other man then gave him a hand and lifted him up onto the platform before jumping to safety himself. Just 10 seconds later, a train pulled into the station. And the Tokyo Olympics is using cutting-edge technology to time athletes. And it's all thanks to the official timekeeper, Swiss watch icon Omega. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on what's new.
Official Olympic timekeeper Omega was ready to keep its eye on the time for Tokyo 2020. A year later, the Swiss watch giant is back in action, serving the Olympics for the 29th time since its first role in 1932.
Our entire project also got postponed, so we put everything on hold, and we were so happy to finally get here, to have all our team arrive, all our equipment arrive, and get ready for start of competition.
Omega provides the results of every athlete in every sport using the latest technology, new positioning systems, and motion sensors. 5 new sports have been added to the Olympics at Tokyo 2020, and Omega has adapted its timing technology accordingly. One of the 5 new events is sport climbing. It will be the second sport after swimming where athletes can time themselves using Omega's revolutionary touchpads.
For the very first time, athletes and coaches, as well as spectators, will receive detailed information about their performances. Between the start and the finish, they'll be able to compare their data with other athletes' performances and eventually adjust their training also.
Zobrist says the company takes pride in its role as an official timekeeper for the Games, but also recognizes the responsibility that comes with the position, saying that mistakes are simply not an option. The Olympic Games end August 8th. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Coming up, California's Dixie fire continues to grow under unfavorable weather conditions. It's now the state's 8th largest fire ever. More evacuations are being issued as firefighters battle the blaze. And a campaign to build police-community relationships. Since its inception in the 80s, millions of neighbors have taken part in the National Night Out event. Find out more in just a moment here on NTD News.
90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. This is a battle between truth and deceit. Subscribe today and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
California's Dixie fire continues to grow as it burns across the forests and mountains. Dry and windy weather conditions make containing the blaze difficult. Here's NTD's Cynthia Kai with more updates on the fire.
The Dixie fire continues to burn in the forests and mountains of Northern California. According to CAL FIRE, the fire is over 274,000 acres in size and 35% contained as of Wednesday morning. CAL FIRE says wind and changing weather conditions make fire control difficult. In the west zone, the fire continues to move toward control lines and through unburned interior islands and ridges.
We have a cold, dry front coming in from just below here, and so it's going to bring a southwesterly component today. So wind from the southwest, so coming from the southwest, heading to the northeast. So that is going to want to help spread the fire, kind of in a right-hand turn, so to speak.
In the east zone, the fire grew northward due to weather conditions yesterday afternoon. No additional structural damage has been reported. CAL FIRE's Planning Operations Chief says,
the plan is once we get this locked off, we're going to continue to open up to 89 all the way to Canyon Dam and use this as a potential catcher's mitt as well. But we will be focusing on this west flank, getting this tied into Long Valley. Crews were really effective yesterday in Dark Ravine, got this all tied in and locked off, so we'll continue to focus on that today and tonight as well.
Evacuation orders are now updated to include Greenville and Lake Almanor. The Dixie fire is now the 8th largest fire in California history. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
The National Association of Town Watch organizes a community building campaign every year, and millions of neighbors can individually take part in all 50 states. NTD's David Lamb visits one site in Silicon Valley.
National Night Out is held on the first Tuesday of every August, and this is one of the many that's going on throughout the country. Introduced in 1984, each event serves to connect communities with police. Activities can range from neighborhood block parties, festivals, or movies. But in this Silicon Valley neighborhood, cops and firefighters took the spotlight.
I think this is the best job on earth. I absolutely love my job.
Asha Wagner is captain of a fire department and hazmat unit. She says that this hazmat truck is the only one of its kind in San Jose. Attendees were lined up, waiting for an inside tour.
All the kids that are out here that might be interested in becoming firefighters, I dreamed of being a firefighter from when I was probably their age too. So anything that I can do to help them along on this path, get them interested in firefighting, I'm just more than happy to do it.
City Council member David Cohan and his office organized this event.
I'm excited that so many people came out and joined us today. Reconnecting with your neighbors, getting to know who's in your community and really connecting with the people in their community, but also, getting a chance to appreciate the people who are public servants in our community.
Another representative also attended the gatherings.
Well, I think that it's so important that we express appreciation for those people who are helpers, who keep us safe, who keep the community safe, who risk their own lives often to do that.
In light of challenges that law enforcement face, such as defunding and police-related incidents, locals share their thoughts.
But you can't give the whole barrel a bad name over a few cops. Some cops are bad, but they're good and bad in everything.
Neighbors and, meet the police officers and the community members out here. So this is my first time that I've been out here.
The attendee says they're all happy to be here with the community, especially after the pandemic lockdowns, and they all say they plan to visit the future National Night Out events. David Lam, NTD News, California.
Coming up, the U.S. Navy and Marines are beginning a massive exercise on Tuesday. It's the largest military drill of its kind in 40 years. And the number of Chinese citizens seeking asylum has increased over 600% in the past 9 years. It's a possible sign that China's human rights situation is deteriorating. That and more on NTD News. The U.S. Navy's military exercises span 2/3 of the world. Meanwhile, 4 Indian warships head towards the South China Sea for military exercises, and Germany is also sending a warship for the first time in 2 decades. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has more.
Troops with the U.S. Navy and the Marines are beginning a massive military exercise spanning 2/3 of the world on Tuesday. It's a scale last seen during the Cold War. Analysts say the large-scale exercise is directed at Russia and China. The message being that the U.S. can answer aggression on multiple fronts simultaneously. The drill is called the Large-Scale Exercise 2021. The 2-week event started Tuesday and runs until August 16th. At least 36 ships will participate, including aircraft and submarines. Military, contract personnel, and civilians will also take part. It features activities offshore, near the shore, and on base. They are meant to test the U.S. Navy's new maritime capabilities. A U.S. Navy commander explained in a Navy press release, large-scale exercise will test our commanders across the spectrum of naval warfare, from the tactical to the strategic, to demonstrate the worldwide fleet's ability, from the open ocean to the littoral. While the exercise only includes U.S. forces, future drills are planned to involve allied forces as well. The U.S. Navy's top officer says the exercise represents a path to the future. Ties between Beijing and Berlin appear to be souring. That's after a German warship headed for South China Sea on Monday for the first time in almost 2 decades. The warship Beirut plans to cross the disputed waterway sometime in December. It's requested a port visit in Shanghai. But China's foreign ministry says the request will not be considered without more information, and that Berlin either has to clarify its intentions for sending the warship through the South China Sea or forget about the Shanghai visit. Beijing claims swaths of the South China Sea as part of Chinese territory. A number of democratic nations have expanded their military presence in the region to counter Beijing's influence there. But the regime has established military outposts on several artificial islands in the region. Berlin officials say the German warship will stick to common trade routes, explaining it won't sail through the Taiwan Strait or enter the 12 nautical miles surrounding any landmass in the region. The Beirut's route includes travel to Australia, Guam, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, and Singapore, and will return home in December. Tensions persist in the South China Sea. This month, India will send 4 warships to the region. They will undergo a 2-month mission that includes participating in military exercises. Officials said on Wednesday that they will be working with allies to ensure order in the maritime region. The ships will also take part in joint military exercises involving the U.S., Japan, and Australia off the coast of Guam. These 4 countries make up what is known as the Quad. It's an alliance aimed at maintaining peace in the Indo-Pacific, including countering an assertive China. Though India sits more than 1,000 miles away from the South China Sea region, its Navy says the deployment seeks to underscore the operational reach, peaceful presence, and solidarity with friendly countries towards ensuring good order in the maritime domain. The 4 Indian ships include missile destroyers and missile frigates. They will also be sailing through Southeast Asia and the Western Pacific. The deployment comes on the heels of a similar move by the UK Navy. Last month, British aircraft carriers transited through the South China Sea on its way to undertake military exercises. China condemned the move.
The number of Chinese asylum seekers worldwide is reaching record highs. Chinese citizens seeking refuge in 2020 increased 7-fold compared to 2012. That's a possible sign that China's human rights situation has deteriorated over the years. NTD's Don Ma has more.
The number of Chinese citizens seeking asylum overseas has increased over 600% from 2012 to 2020. That's according to data from the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. In that time, over 600,000 have applied for asylum. Many are fleeing China as a result of the Chinese regime's oppression. About 70% of asylum seekers sought refuge in the U.S. in 2020. Many people travel overseas on tourist or business visas, and after arriving, they apply for refugee status. These asylum seekers come from all walks of life, with one thing in common: being victimized by the Chinese regime. These people are lawyers, businessmen, religious believers, and many others. Many lawyers persecuted in China are those that work to uphold human rights. Many of them face arrest, trial, and even jail time. That's why human rights lawyer Wu Xiaoping fled China in 2019. He was targeted by Chinese authorities after he tried to defend a Falun Gong practitioner in court. Falun Gong is a spiritual meditation practice. The Chinese regime launched a brutal persecution campaign against it in 1999, despite its widespread popularity in the country before that. Wu recounts a close encounter he had with Chinese authorities.
Me and my friends and other human rights lawyers were having a dinner party. Because this was a large gathering, we were tracked down by the CCP. Because we were afraid of being arrested, many people fled China.
We also spoke with another refugee about his story. He worked as a businessman in Shanghai and was targeted for attending an underground church. That's referring to a house of worship that doesn't conform to China's state-sanctioned church requirements.
We established an underground church in Shanghai. This isn't allowed by the CCP. They started arresting people. I managed to escape. At the time, I had a 10-year visa. I bought a $1,500 plane ticket and came to the U.S.
The Chinese regime may have taken notice of the growing demand for asylum and could be trying to remedy the situation. According to reports, authorities are issuing 98% fewer Chinese passports to its citizens compared to just 2 years ago. Don Ma, NTD News.
Coming up, the UK is set to roll out COVID-19 vaccines to all 16 and 17-year-olds. The latest figures show about 9 in 10 adults in the UK have COVID-19 antibodies. And a German man is sentenced for keeping illegal military arsenal from World War II at home. His collection includes a working tank. More in just a moment here on NTD News.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
All 16 and 17-year-olds in the UK will be offered vaccines against the CCP virus. Ministers have accepted the recommendation from government advisors to extend the vaccine rollout to younger age groups. It comes as the latest figures show around 9 in 10 adults in the UK have COVID-19 antibodies, with levels continuing to increase in all nations and regions. The presence of antibodies suggests someone has had the infection in the past or has been vaccinated. NTD's Trevor Piper brings us more on the vaccination rollout to older teens.
Experts on the Joint Committee of Vaccination and Immunisation have advised the government that the COVID-19 vaccine rollout should be extended to include 16 and 17-year-olds. At a Downing Street press briefing, committee chair Wei Shen Lim said children in that age group will be offered a first dose of the Pfizer vaccine, which has been approved for use in the UK for people aged 12 and over.
We would like to advise that the first vaccine dose is offered now for 16 and 17-year-olds who are otherwise healthy, with the aim of a second vaccine dose to be offered sometime later.
Vaccination experts have yet to set out the timetable for delivering the second doses and will make further recommendations later. Ministers have accepted the recommendation, and the NHS is making preparations to start offering the jabs to around 1.4 million children in the coming weeks. Under current UK guidance, children will not need the consent of their parents to get a vaccine. Officials are not ruling out vaccinations for healthy 12 to 15-year-olds, and England's Deputy Chief Medical Officer Jonathan Van Tam says he thinks it is likely they will get the jabs.
My sense is that it is more likely rather than less likely that that list will broaden over time as data become available.
At present, children over the age of 12 are only eligible for a vaccine if they have certain medical conditions which put them at risk from COVID-19. Research has shown that children who get infected with the CCP virus are unlikely to become seriously ill or suffer from long-term effects. Researchers at King's College London found that less than 2% of infected children have symptoms lasting more than 8 weeks. Trevor Piper, NTD News.
Residents in one Greek suburb face another night away from home after wildfires left houses and businesses in the neighborhood badly burned. Over 80 fires burned on the island in 24 hours since late Monday in the worst heat wave for 30 years. NTD's Earl Rhodes brings us this report.
On Wednesday morning, residents in the Athens suburb of Vasilobi visited the aftermath of the wildfire that burned their homes, cars and businesses. This resident said he didn't know how his house was spared when others were not so fortunate.
My next-door neighbour's house was burnt. The house over there was burnt. The house behind mine was burnt. I don't know how God helped me, and mine was not burnt.
His neighbour sees the damage to his neighbourhood.
I feel bitter. Who wouldn't feel like this? You can't understand the feeling unless it happens to you.
The worst heat wave in over 30 years saw 81 wildfires break out in Greece throughout Tuesday. Homes burned and residents fled as wildfires raged on the outskirts of Athens. More than 500 firefighters and 18 aircraft battled a blaze 12 miles north of the city centre. Electric pylons, trees, houses and cars were in flames as residents were ordered out of their homes. Athens power operator says the fire damaged parts of the grid, posing a major risk to the region's electricity supply. Greek authorities say a mixture of high temperatures, low humidity and strong winds caused the fires to spread rapidly.
All this resulted in multiple rolling air currents carrying an intense heat load that fanned out inside a densely forested area. And in this way, the wildfire created its own microclimate and spread dangerously.
A time-lapse video shot by National Observatory of Athens shows plumes of smoke filling the sky as the blazes increased towards nightfall. Apart from the fire north of Athens, 2 more major forest fires were still burning Wednesday morning, one on the island of Evia and one in the southwestern Peloponnese. Earl Rhodes, NTD News.
A court handed a German pensioner a suspended prison sentence for keeping illegal military arsenal from World War II at home. His collection included a working tank. NTD's Trevor Piper tells us more.
A German court on Tuesday convicted an 84-year-old man of illegal weapons possession. His personal arsenal includes a Panzer tank, a flak cannon, and multiple other items of World War II-era military equipment. The court in the northern city of Kiel handed the man a suspended prison sentence of 14 months and fined him for over £200,000.
As defence lawyer, I am very satisfied with the verdict because the trial chamber agreed with the defence on the essential points that also characterised these proceedings. Namely, the tank that was the subject of the proceedings, i.e. the Panther, the anti-aircraft gun, the torpedo and the mortar were not weapons of war, but rather museum objects.
The court also ordered the defendant to sell or donate the 45-ton tank and the anti-aircraft cannon to a museum or a collector. Authorities discovered the illegal military arsenal during a raid on the collector's storage facility in northern Germany in an investigation into black market Nazi-era art. Local media reported that the man made no secret of his weapons collection and even brought the tank out during a bad winter to use as a snowplow. Trevor Piper, NTD News.
A miracle baby from Lebanon turns 1 today on the anniversary of an explosion in the country's capital city. His story is helping bring hope to those still suffering from the after effects. Here's more.
Beirut, Lebanon, blasted by a neglected stockpile of ammonium nitrate 1 year ago today. The city still reeling from the explosion. But a miracle occurred there that day. A child born amidst the chaos is now bringing hope to all he meets.
George was a symbol of life.
Many took strength from him after the blast. We met people after the blast who were themselves affected by the blast. When they heard about George, they would be happy. George gave a lot of hope to people in Lebanon.
He was our support too.
Support for us and support for those around us.
George's mother, Emmanuelle, was in labor when the blast blew out the windows in her delivery room. The hospital, St. George University Medical Center, destroyed. She went on to give birth to George in the corridor by torchlight.
For a period after the blast, you feel you're still living in shock. You still don't realize what happened to you. After that, you realize it more. You become more annoyed and you don't understand what happened. But at the end of the day, you have to get up on your feet. I have my baby and I can't look weak in front of him.
The blast marked one of the largest non-nuclear explosions in history. It killed more than 200, injured thousands, and destroyed large portions of the capital. Added to that, the pandemic and a financial crisis, plus an economic depression the World Bank has dubbed one of the deepest in modern history. Like many Lebanese people, the couple had trouble finding milk and medicine for their baby.
It's a mixed feeling. Mixed feeling.
We also now have mixed feelings. It's the memory of a lot of people who died around us. It's a big loss for everyone around us. You can't be happy while others are sad at the same time, but we also can't deprive George from celebrating him.
To honor the fallen and their young son, George's parents plan to celebrate his birthday, Sunday, August 8th. Pictures will be posted on his Instagram page, Miracle Baby George.
And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephania Cox. We have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy